Alright, so again for this topic, no, the graphs of a polynomial function, before we'll have to proceed on the discussion on how do we graph ba a polynomial functions, we'll just have to identify first kung unsa man ang timailhan that that function is a polynomial functions or not. Diba we have already discussed on how we identify if that is a polynomial or not. So kining si p of x is equal to x plus x squared plus x cubed. Is it a polynomial functions or not? This is a polynomial functions. Si p of x is equal to x to the power of 4 minus 1 over 8x. This is also a polynomial function. This one here, p of x is equal to 3 over x, is not a polynomial function because natay din na ang ato variable x is in the denominator. So, dapat our mga variables should no longer be in the denominator. Kaya kung naay denominator nga, naay variable nga nasa denominator, it will never be considered as a polynomial function. So, this example number 3 here is not a polynomial function. We also have here another example, f of x is equal to 9 square root of x plus 2 of 2x. So, this one here is not a polynomial function pa rin because our variable is inside the radical. So, again, that is not a polynomial function. Number 5, f of x is equal to x to the power of 4 over 2 is not a polynomial function because our exponent is, oh no, this is a polynomial function pala. So, again, this is a polynomial function because even though it is a fraction form, pero si 4 divided by 2, that is 2. So that is why we can have x to the power of 2. F of x is equal to 5 minus 4 over x squared. Is it a polynomial function or not?
Not, ma'am.
Not.
Mom.
Okay, that is not a polynomial function because our variable is still in the denominator. So p of x is equal to x to the power of 1 half plus 2. So that is still not a polynomial function tungod kay nga to exponent kay fraction form. Dapat our exponent should not be in fraction form for it to be considered a polynomial function. Now, this one here, p of x is equal to 4x minus 2 plus 2x minus 3 is a polynomial function, and p of x is equal to 12 is also a polynomial function. And this is a constant function, right? And p of x is equal to 5x plus 1 is still a polynomial function. And p of x is equal to x cubed plus x to the power of 4 plus x to the power of 6. This is also a polynomial function. P of x is equal to 5 minus x to the power of 11 is a polynomial function. Unsay tawag sa usa ka function if ang ija degree is 0? We call that a example kay si p of x is equal to 12. Ang ija degree is 0. So, ang pangalan sa ija function is a constant function. Am I correct? If how about if ang ato degree is 1? Say pangayan sa ato.
Linear, ma'am.
Okay, that's
Linear,
a
ma'am.
linear function. How about if the degree is 2?
Quadratic,
Quadratic,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Quadratic. If the degree is 3?
Cubic,
Cubic.
ma'am.
Cubic. If 4?
Quartic.
Quart
Quartic.
Quartic, ma'am.
And 5 is
Quintic, ma'am.
quintic. Okay.
Centennial, ma'am.
Pag 6 to above na siya, we can just say it polynomial or n polynomial. Okay, so this time, we'll also have to move on to the different graphs of a polynomial function because our topic for this morning is really about the graphs of a polynomial function. So I have here an example of the graphs of polynomial functions. So as what you can see in here, we have here p of x is equal to this one, x plus 3 times x plus 2 times x plus 1, which means that kini si Jakay, this is a cubic function, no, kay natay degree, pero gihimo siyang gi-factor siya. So ang ato cubic function kay ato si gi-factor out, mao nang nakakam up ta ng ingani. And then we also have here, kung ingani ang isukan, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is upat, no, ang ato exponent na kinadak-an kay 4. So naatay ingani na graph if we have, if naatay exponent of 4. And ingani sad na graph if we have pila man ni? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. And this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 pa rin siya. So we have different forms of graph and we will have to later know kung saan na to paghimo ng graph map. Okay, so in this year, Sita. So there are actually 4 cases of the leading coefficient test. So again, we will have to really know, warning, emergency alert. Okay, so there are 4 cases of the leading coefficient test. So this is what we call a leading coefficient test. So natay usa ka polynomial function dapat in standard form. So when we say in standard form, dapat ang ato forma sa ato polynomial function is from greatest to lowest or from highest to lowest. So dapat again ang ato polynomial kay dapat naka plus star siya, may standard form from highest to lowest ang ato exponent. Like for example, x to the power of 4 plus x to the power of 3 plus x squared plus x plus 0. Ano siya? So that is in standard form. Na naka-arrange ang imong mga exponent gikan sa kinatasan, kinadak-an padong sa gamay. So, ang ato pangitaon kay leading coefficient of degree. Sa pagaling tong degree, that is the highest exponent. Okay? So, the highest exponent degree, ang leading coefficient kay katong number naning pilit sa ato. Again, kung ang leading coefficient katong number na pilit sa ato variable with our highest exponent. So like for example, x to the power of 3 plus x squared plus x. So ang ato degree dito kay c kinsa man? X cubed plus x
3
squared
man.
plus x. So 3 kay ang ato pinakadako na exponent kay 3 man. Tapos imo i-identify si 3 kung unsa siya, even ba or odd. No, ang imo degree, i-identify nimo siya kung even ba or odd. And then, the leading coefficient kay katong number nganing pilit sa x cubed. Isa may number nga naa or literal coefficient sa x cubed. That is 1. Uy, ang leading coefficient kay 1. Kay unsa man day ang number nga pilit sa x cubed? Halabi? That is 1. Kung may kag 2x cubed, ang ato leading coefficient kay si 2. Gets? Kung 3x cubed, ang ato leading coefficient kay 3. Uy, nasabtan? So, x cube
Yes,
ha.
ma'am.
So, kung may x cube, ang leading coefficient nato is 1. Now, sa leading coefficient, you will have to identify if positive ba siya or negative. Again, sa leading coefficient, imo siya i-identify if positive ba siya or negative. Sa degree, kung may ka-degree, you will have to identify odd ba siya or even. Na sa leading coefficient, imo siya i-identify if that is positive or negative. Now, in leading coefficient test, natay upat ka cases. We have case 1, case 2, case 3, and case 4. Okay, nanakay usa ka polynomial. Tas kung na-identify nimo ang leading coefficient gani is positive, sana nang ija degrees are like for example katong x cubed. Positive ang imo leading coefficient kay we have positive 1, ang imo degree kay odd kay 3 man. So ang imo end behavior sa graph kay kini. Mo fall siya sa left o mo rise sa right. Rises right, falls siya sa left. For case 2, if negative ang imo leading coefficient and still add imo degree, like for example, unsa man na siya ma'am, negative x cubed. So negative ang imo leading coefficient kay negative 1, and then ang imo degree kay 3 which is odd. So ang imo end behavior sa graph kay rises left, musaka siya sa left, pasaka, and paubos sa right, falls right. So tipailhan ni medyo, no, familiarize this one. And then, sa case 3, if positive ang imong leading coefficient and then degree nimo is even, like for example, na kay 2x to the power of 2. So, your leading coefficient is positive 2, so you have positive ang imong leading coefficient, and degree nimo is 2, so that is even. So, positive gani o even, pasabot, it rises both from left to right. Ang imo end behavior sa graph kay pasa ka sa left, pasa ka po sa right. Pero, sa case 4, kay kung negative ang imong leading coefficient, tas even ang imong degree, so false si just sa both left and right. Nasabtan, okay. Ato siguro pangtanon be halabe tanawon ni ato siya taas. Sige. If ang imo leading coefficient is positive and then odd ang imong kuan degree, unsa man ang ija behavior sa graph? Ito na, nakalimot. Positive ang leading coefficient and odd ang kuan. Odd ang imo degree. Unsa man ang behavior sa graph?
Falls sa left, ma'am, tapos nag-rise sa right.
Ala, let's try. Okay, falls left and rises right. That's correct. So again, you have to familiarize these four cases of the leading coefficient test. Ha? So remember na nito siya. Case of. So here are actually the steps involve a graphing polynomial function. So we have 6 steps in making a or in graphing a polynomial functions. Number 1, you have to write the function in factored form. I know that most of you here knows how to factor out a specific function. The second one, i-determine niyo kung unsang end behavior sa graph. So, pag-determine niyo, una ha, again, ang una na step in graphing for a polynomial function kay ipang-factor out. No, ipang-factor out niyo. Number 2 is, i-determine nimo ang end behavior sa graph. So, tan-awon nimo ang leading coefficient o ang degree. Tapos, imo identify na, ang ikaduha na step kay, kuan si siya, ang ato graph kay, rises kuan, rises left and right, ana siya. So, sa ikatulo kay, pangitaon nimo ang mga zeros of the polynomial function and their multiplicity. So, like for example, if x minus a to the power of k is a factor of the polynomial function, then a is a 0. If multiplicity k, the multiplicity refers to the exponent of the factors of the polynomial. Later, magatag ta example na. If the multiplicity of the zero is even, then the graph touches the x-axis or tangent to the x-axis. So again, kung even ang imong multiplicity sa zero, touches si just x-axis or tangent to the x-axis. But if ang imong multiplicity of zeros is odd, then the graph crosses the x-axis. So you have also to remember this one here. After that, we have number 4. You will have to construct a table of values for x and p of x. So maghimo ka ng table of values. And then, i-plot na dyan nimo ang mga points. And then, you will have to draw a smooth, continuous curve to connect the points. And then, number 6, make sure that the graph follows the end behavior as found in the above step. So, dapat matugma ang imo last na inihimong end behavior sa imo graph. Okay, let's have an example number 1. You will have to describe the behavior of the graph by completing the table. So you have there the function number 1 and function number 2. So for function number 1, we have p of x is equal to x cubed minus 2x squared minus 3x. So imo identify, imo siyang himoong factored form. Kaduha kay degree, pangitaon yung mga leading coefficient and then the end behavior of the graph, no, sa left tail o sa right tail. So how do we factor this form? So number 1, no, ito siya i-factor the given function using the factoring techniques you have learned in your previous years. So si x cubed minus 2x squared minus 3x, pwede na to siya ipagawas ang x. For us to, pwede siya nga niyo, x times x squared minus 2x minus 3. Kay both man ang kada term na x, so ipagawas nimo ang isa ka x, and then na kay x times x squared minus 2x minus 3. So, same ra ni si x, gibutang ra gyapon nimo diri si x, tapos imo i-factor kining naa sa sulod. So, that is just equal to x plus 1 times x minus 3. So, this is now your factored form for this one here, this function. Okay, for number 2, na kay negative x cubed plus x squared minus 12x. So again, since ang kada term na may x, so ikapagawas nimo si negative x, and then factor nimo x squared minus x plus 12. And then kining sa sulod imo na sad na siya i-factor, no? So na kini siya is just equal to x minus 4 times x plus 3. So mao na ni ang imong factor form. So mao na ni ang imo ibutang dire kining mga answer duha. This is the factored form of this function, and this is also the factored form of this function. Now you already have the answer for this. Now we'll have to identify the degree. So unsa may degree sa kini na function? So number 1.
3, ma'am.
3.
3, ma'am.
Okay, sa number 2 unsa ato degree?
3, ma'am.
3,
3 gihapon. So since 3 man ang ato degree sa duha ka function, ato siya identify if 3 is an odd or even. So 3 is odd, of course, di ba? So imay butang diha that it's odd. So 3 tapos dash odd siya. No, para mahibaw nato because we will be using that during our when we draw a graph. So number 3 is for you to identify the leading coefficient. So ang leading coefficient nato sa kini is kinsa man?
1, ma'am.
Positive 1. And ang leading coefficient nato sa number 2 is negative 1. So do not forget no that we also have to identify if that is positive or negative. So positive 1 and negative 1 sa number 2. Okay, so since number 4, kay you will have to identify the end behavior of the graph. So unsa to imong leading coefficient? Sa number 1 kay positive og ang imong positive og odd. So unsa gali ang behavior sa graph once na positive ang imong leading coefficient tapos ang degree is odd?
Falls sa left, ma'am. Rises to right.
Okay, so fall diri, tapos rise diri. Hala, tanaw na to i-check. So, positive og odd, so falls left and rises right. So, butang nimo diri, fall, and then diri kay mo rise, rises, tas falls. How about number 2? This is negative og odd. So, pangita ta diri, negative og odd, so this one here. This is case number 2. So, mo rise si sa left and fall si sa right. So, may atibutang diri, rise diri, tas fall si sa left. Nasabtan ra?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's proceed to example number 2. Okay, for example number 2, you will have to, given a function, so nanatay function na factored form na siya daan. So, we have p of x is equal to x plus 2 squared plus x plus 1 cube x minus 1 to the power of 4 and x minus 2. So we will have to complete the table below by finding the zeros, multiplicity of the zeros, characteristics of its multiplicity, and behavior of the graph. So, maning giingon dire siya, kini. Ato ni siya timan-an, no, kay in making a graph or in graphing a polynomial functions, kinahanglan jud nato pangita ng series of a polynomial function and their multiplicity. So again, kung even gani ang ato multiplicity of the zeros, ang ato kuanda na is the graph touches the x-axis or tangent to the x-axis. But if the multiplicity of the zeros is odd, then the graph crosses the x-axis. So we have here, what are the zeros in multiplicity of 0, characteristics of the multiplicity, and the behavior of the graph? So we have here our solution. Now, first is we will also have to find the zeros of p of x. So in order for us to find the zeros of p of x, we will have to set p of x is equal to 0 and solve for the values of x. So mahimo ning 0 siya, and then you will have to solve for the values of x. So natay x plus 2 squared is equal to 0, x plus 1 cubed is equal to 0, and x minus 1 is equal to 0, and x minus 2 is equal to 0. So, ang zeros nato are the x-intercepts of the polynomial functions. It is where the graph it's either crosses or touches the x-axis. So, we have here no mo ang ato mga zeros kay kung ato ni si x plus 2 is equal to 0, pag ma-transfer si 2 sa pikas, may mo siyang negative 2. That is why we have negative 2 here. And then si 1 nimo, no, x plus 1 is equal to 0. So pag balis ni 1 sa pikas, may mo siyang negative 1. That is why we have negative 1 here. And then si x minus 1 is equal to 0, may mo siyang positive 1. And then, x minus 2 is equal to 0. So, since equate man mo ni siya sa 0, so, subtracting both sides by negative 2, so your x is equal to positive 2. So, nakay positive 2 here. Now, kinsa man yung imong multiplicity of 0? So, ang imong mga multiplicity of 0 kay katong mga exponent nga naata diri. So, kini siya, ang ija exponent kay 2. Sakto, that's why you have 2 here. And then, imong multiplicity here is 3. So, na kay 3. Ini siya, diri kay 4. Nay 4 diri. And, ang diri kay 1. Kay way ang kay exponent diha na makita. So, that is considered as 1. And then, from this one, nanani, mo ning imong mga zeros, mo niyang imong mga multiplicity of zeros. So, na kay 2, 3, 4, and 1. So, imo daw dyan i-identify ang characteristics of the multiplicity. So, 2 man is, so that is even, 3 is odd, 4 is even, and 1 is odd. After that, imo daw dyan i-identify ang behavior sa graph. Balik ta dere. Sa tuwing giingon, kung ang imong multiplicity sa zeros daw is even, then the graph touches the x-axis. So, even man ni siya, naman to. So, even man si 2, so maingon ka diri touches the x-axis at negative 2. This is odd, so this is crosses the x-axis at negative 1. Now, this is even, so pag even touches, pag odd crosses, ha? So, touches the x-axis at positive 1. Now, here is odd man, so crosses the x-axis at 2. Ana siya. Mo na dayon to. Nga na ra ka simple in finding for the zeros, multiplicity of 0, characteristics of the multiplicity, and the behavior of the graph. Next, we also have example number 3. Ang example number 3 is we will have to identify the number of turning points. Kung may ka number of turning points, pila ka buok, kanagaling mo na, ma-change pa ang ija ko. Like for example, pasaka ang imo graph, tas mukalitra sa jag pa, naog. So, mo na ang imo pasabot sa turning points. So, kini siya, si number 1, kay mahibawan nimo kung pilang number of turning points, simply ra siya. For this one, mo ni si ang imo graph sa number 1, and this is your graph for number 2. If you can say, no, sa imo kuan, ang imo degree sa polynomial function nimo sa number 1, ang imo degree is 4. Now, ang number of turning points is 3. Unsa man ang turning points? Kanang ningliko ang imo graph. So, 1, 2, and 3. So, na kay 3 ka turning points. Ang imo number 2, kay ang imo degree kay 5. And ang imo turning points is 3 gihapon siya. 2. Haman ang turning points nimo. Kini siya na graph. This is 1 and this is 2. Kaduha na turning points. So, unsa di ay pasabot sa kini siya? Unsa di ay pasabot sa number of turning points niya, ma'am? So, for quartic functions like x to the power 4 minus 2x minus 15 have odd number of turning points while nakay-add number sa turning points, and ang imo quintic functions x to the power 5 plus x cubed minus 2x plus 1 has even number of turning points. So, the number of turning points is at most n minus 1, where n is the degree of the polynomial function. So, kibali, mahibaw nimo ang turning points kay you just have to deduct no sa n minus 1. So like for example, si 4 nimo ang imong highest degree, minusan nimo 1 mo nang imong turning number of turning points. No. So again, mahibaw-an nimo kung add daw sa to quartic functions kibali na kay degree na 4 no have odd number of turning points. Pag naagaling tay, so naatay mga odd numbers sa turning points. So that is why we have 3. Ang ato quintic functions kay we have even number of turning points. So ang number of turning points is at most is either n minus 1 siya. where n is the degree of the polynomial function. Example number 4. This time, diri nata maghimo ta og mga table values of x and p of x of the polynomial functions. So we have here, for example, natay polynomial functions. The p of x is equal to x minus 1 cube and x plus 2 squared. So, natay mga zeros of given polynomial are Pariha kagay na sa tughimo sa multiplicity gani na we have 1 kay kung imo ni siya p of x is equal to 0 so natay positive 1 kining si x plus 2 if imo igawas that is negative 2. So natay zeros divide x-axis into 3 intervals. So nakay negative 2, positive infinity to negative 2, and then negative 2 and 1 and 1 and positive infinity. Hence, make a table of values by choosing an arbitrary x. So, naghimo ra ta og mga values ni x diri. So, natay 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So, dapat na adyon ang 0. Pabdong sa positive, magsugod ka sa 1 and 2, and then negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. So after that, unsa nimo pagkakita sa imong p of x? So simply substitute ra nimo si negative 3 sa mga values ni x here. So imong alista ng mga values ni x there. So that becomes kini x is equal to negative 3 and then you get the answer negative 64. If ang ato x is equal to negative 2, kialistan ra nimo ang mga x here ng negative 2, so your answer here is 0. Now if your x is equal to negative 1, and you have the answer which is negative 8. Now, if your x is equal to 0, the answer is negative 4. If your x is equal to 1, then you have b of 1 is equal to 0. And if your x is equal to 2, then you have 16. So, pwede nimo siya ibutang diri kung imong negative 3, x is equal to negative 3, and then your p of x is equal to negative 64. We have 0, negative 8, negative 4, 0, and of course, 16. So, this is what we mean when we try to find for the values for x and p of x of the polynomial function. So, mana ni si Jan. Now, for number 5, this is where we will be sketching the graph of the polynomial function. Ibagi, explain ako kagaina on how do we graph a polynomial function. So like for example, we have here a function p of x is equal to x times x minus 3 times x plus 1. So naatay 6 steps in graphing a polynomial function. So we'll have to follow the steps that we have discussed earlier in graphing the polynomial function. So for step 1, usa to na kinahanglan nato i-factor ang polynomial function. The given function kay already in factored form. So, di na nato siya i-factor kay factored form naman siya daan. Pero kung di pa siya factored form, so, like for example, kini siya na function kana galing kini, no, for example, ingani ang ihatag sa imo, dili pa siya factored form. So, kinahanglan na nimo siya i-factored form or i-factor form sa. But our given here is already a factored form, so we will no longer change it into factor form kay it's already a factored form. So, step 2 is that ang ato x-intercepts are negative 1, 0, and 3. Anong nakaingon man ta na negative 1, 0, 3? Simply, kining si p of x, himuna nato siya 0. So, nanatay 0 is equal to x times x minus 3 times x plus 1. So, ang ato, dani, ang ato x is equal to 0. Sakto? So, we have here 0. Kini siya, x minus 3 kay is equal to 0. So, pag balis ng negative 3 sa pikas, may mong positive 3. That's why we have 3 here. So, x plus 1 is equal to 0. So, our x is equal to negative 1. So, we will have to plot these values to create intervals. Number 3, kaya ato identify ang ato degree and unsa nga ato leading coefficient. So, ato degree kay 3. Anong nakaingon man ta na 3? Kaya kung ato ni siya i-multiply tulo, x times x times x, so we have the answer of x to the power of 3. Again, x times x times x, that is x cubed. So, our degree is 3, and ang ato leading coefficient is positive 1. So, odd and even. So, to, odd and even. So, kung odd o even ang ato degree, so ang ato behavior sa graph or the end graph nga to, kay falls on the left and rises on the right. So, mo fall si dya sa left, mo rise si dya sa right. Number 4, kay you will have to fill in the table of values for p of x by using x values in each interval. So, na kay butang na kag mga number, basta kay na ay 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, and negative 1 and negative 2. So, di unsa manini mo siya pagkuan. So, simply, imo ra siya dya i-substitute. If your x is equal to 0, so, kaning mga x diri 0, 0, 0, pakalista na nimo siya. So, your answer is equal to 0. But if your x is 1, then your answer is negative 4. If your x is 2, then your answer is negative 6. And if your x is 3, then your answer is 0. And if your x is negative 1, then your answer is 0. And if your x is negative 2, then your answer is negative 10. So, pwede nyo i-check later if you have a lot of time to do it. So you just simply substitute the value of x for you to find the p of x. So mana niyan to mga p of x. And then step 5 is to plot all the points and connect the points with a smooth curve. So naata diri negative 2, negative 10. Haman ni nato ibut. Una na to si 0, 0. So, sa ato graph, kini siya, kung sa mani tawag ni kaning sige, pa vertical. Kini siya is our y-axis. Kini siya is our x-axis. So, kining naa diri pa right, this is positive. Ang pa left is negative. Pasaka sa taas is positive. Paubos diri is negative. So, aman si 0, 0, narata diri. Mo ni si 0, 0. And then after sa 0, 0, pa-right sa taha, so 1 and negative 4, dari ra si 1 og negative 4. This is 1, 2, 3. So, si x na to is 1, and then si y na to is negative 4. So, paubos na, diri siya. Okay, if our x is 2, and y is negative 6, so ang ato x is 2, diri si 2, and we have negative 6 here. And then, 3, 0, so we have our 3 here, and then 0 ra gyapon diri. And then we also have sa left side ta, negative 1 og 0, negative 1 og 0, dari ra. Negative 1, 0 is here. And then we also have negative 2 and negative 10 is negative 2 and negative 10 kay nana siya diri. Negative 2 tas mo ni ang negative 10 diri. Nana siya diri. So, di ba ang atong giingon na kuan sa to? Kini ba? Falls on the left and rises on the right. Asa man ang ato left diri. So, paubos si siya. Manang pasabot sa falls on the left and rises on the right. Pasaka si siya. To positive infinity na na siya. Okay? So, again, mao na ni siya ang ato graph. So again, when you graph a polynomial function, you have to make sure that you will have to follow these 6 steps pala in graphing a polynomial functions. And I think that's it. That ends our discussion here.